for Dr. Gamal Badawi. I think he will be very good. Okay, without delay, as I said, today we have is a panel discussion, and I like you to be very open. Have any question you want? Okay, you can see here we have a speaker today. Again, you have we have the opportunity to meet again Imam Dabour, Amr Dabour from Bay County Islamic Society. He will be with us, and also Mr. Alex Galvin is a former director for the Center of Foreign Policy Study, Florida State University, Tallahassee, Florida. He actually will explain, actually, he was his journey, about Islam and things like that. And also, I going to give everyone like 5 to 7 minutes to talk. Everyone will talk for 7 minutes about certain things. The whole idea is I want you to get anything, misconception or ideas from your mind that you understand about Islam wrong, or you don't know, or you want to know, or what's happening, why is this happening, why is this doing, why is this taking place, is this something wrong, is this, what's that, what's going on? So this is a whole session about that. So I'm giving you a whole hour's question and answer. So they will have 7 minutes to talk, everyone, or 6 minutes, and then we'll leave that for question. I put some terms, as I said here, terms to help the student to asking the question. What's Sharia law, for example? Freedom of religion in Islam. What is the freedom of religion in Islam? Jihad, you hear this terminology. What jihad is. Concept of accountability in Islam. You are accountable for what your deeds, what you're doing in your life, where are you going? Ijtihad, which is independence, religious rule, which is called fatwa. You might hear about that. Like if the Pope, for instance, in Italy, talk about for the Catholic, about certain things you have to do. Is there something like that in Islam? Okay, and I have some handout about human rights. You might can get one, and also about does Islam says about terrorism. Okay. You might can get one of them. I might shorten this about terrorism, but I will get some. Whoever not going to get one today, I will get him one next time. So without delay, I will start with Imam Amr Dabour, and he will talk to us for approximately 6 minutes. Thank you.
Welcome. May I waive my right? For the brother, give him, beginning. Go ahead. I was actually going to waive my right. But that's okay.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, we're friendly. Come on.
So, I wasn't actually always. I wasn't born Muslim. I was born to a Christian household.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
You can stand up if you want.
Oh, no, it's intimate.
Yeah,
We'll keep
sure.
it that way. So I wasn't born to a Muslim household. I was born to a Christian household, and it was a very turbulent household, to say it best. So my mother had explored different faiths within Christianity. She had decided to go from the range of like Pentecostal to Baptist to more maybe like Methodist, whereas my father was from Mexico. And of course, many Mexicans are going to be Roman Catholic. And I never really grew up having to be forced into one or the other, and whereas with my dad, who was very, very lax on his Catholicism, was like, if you want to go to Mass, go, I don't really care. My mom, on the other hand, had a crisis of her own faith shortly after my grandfather passed away, which was her father, and I guess she was going through a dark period of time, and she had, kind of inadvertently said out loud that I don't believe in God anymore. And for me, I went to a Christian school as a kid. You don't question these things. You say I don't believe in God anymore because you're having a crappy time in your life, and that really started my journey to being able to question my faith, question religion, and my introduction to Islam was actually through a young kid that I went to elementary school with in the 4th grade. His family was, I want to say, from Palestine or Jordan. And so just introducing cultural things, you know, show and tell, kids bring in stuff from like wherever, and I brought in like stuff from Mexico because that's where my dad was from. And later on down the road, as I got older, I was engaged to a young woman from Iran, which introduced me to Islam. When she had left Iran, she had actually left Islam and became Christian. And when I used to press her, and this was, I want to say after September 11th, I used to press her on what was life like growing up in Iran, growing up in Islam. And she would say the most negative, most awful, terrible things about it, saying it's a terrible religion, Muslims are terrible people, don't ask me any more about it. And all that does, you know, it's like telling a child, no, you can't stay up and watch this movie tonight, and that child now only wants to see that movie. So naturally, all it did was, you know, light a fire under my curiosity, and actually decided to go and pursue it. So I started religious studies right around my early 20s, and it was a pretty good journey for me. I read more into Christianity, I think, than I ever wanted to. I was looking at faith from not just a person sitting at a pulpit telling me how to interpret faith, but now reading, you know, things like Strong's Concordance and Josephus. It was very eye-opening in a way that this isn't exactly what I was being told as a kid growing up in Christianity, and then it started to make me question things like what the Trinity was. And the more I started to read about this, the more I started looking at other avenues that would explain more the Abrahamic faith. I can't say I actually ventured out into like Hinduism or Buddhism or anything like that. But I guess I kind of stuck with what I knew from having grown up. And while I was looking through these manuscripts and different books, I had sat down at a public library one day, and you know how if you go to the library, any books on religion are always grouped together. So you're going to find the Torah, you're going to find the Bible, you're going to find the Quran, you're going to find like, you know, all kinds of stuff like right there in the same section. And I found this book called The Complete Idiot's Guide to Understanding Islam. And you have to pardon the expression, I felt, wow, this might actually be suiting for me. And so I picked it up and started reading it from the beginning. It was so, and I have to say kudos to the author for putting this together, because they put it together in such a very plain, basic, understandable format that as I started reading it, I started going, wow, so there are a lot of things in common between Muslims and Christians. Whereas before I thought Islam was just some way out there field of thought, religion, whatever, I wanted nothing to do with it. They were crazy, they blew up our country, you know, I mean, this was a terrible thing to even consider looking into, but the more I read into it, I was like, wow, you know, that makes perfect sense. And looking at it from a Christian perspective, you can see where all of their similarities were more in abundance than there were differences. There was actually very few differences. So for me, this was calming and very soothing, because at this point, by the time I was already looking at other religions beyond Christianity, this kind of gave me a little bit of peace in the sense of knowing, okay, all right, so there is a unified message here, but what one is it? And for me, I chose Islam several years later. So it wasn't something that just happened and then I just said, hey, I'm going to be Muslim now. It was something that I made a conscious decision for, and going back to my family, paid a price a little bit, because despite my family's lack in their religiosity, I guess you could say, it came out after the fact. So not being a very religious family, and then you tell them, you know, I'm gonna follow Islam, wasn't a very positive experience for me. And it's been something that my family has come around to since then. We're talking now, I've been Muslim now, I want to say about 9 years, and been to the Middle East and become married, and my wife is actually Muslim. And it's something that my family has kind of come around to and realized that this was a change for me for the better. And they respect that. And if you look at Hispanic households, you'll see something like pork is very predominant. My parents don't even eat pork anymore. They don't even touch it. And it wasn't because I kept telling them it's wrong, it's because they knew that every time I would come around, I wouldn't touch it. And they respected that. At first, they ridiculed me for it, but now, I mean, now they respect it, and now they don't even have it themselves. So I think that for me, it's been actually worth it to see that my family has actually made changes, even themselves, to be accepting of others, whereas before they were not. And I think that if anything has shown positive from my experience, it's been that I've been able to educate my family, if anything. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you. I think we'll hold the question maybe later. If you just write,
I'll remember, yeah.
that's good. Write everything. Yeah, that would be a good if you write everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Imam Amr, that's okay.
Okay. Well, we're talking about know the facts and truth about Islam and Muslims. And obviously Islam is one of the most misunderstood religions in the world we live nowadays, at least from my perspective, because I studied Islam for long, from elementary to masters, and I assume I know some about Islam. But when I turn on most of the media outlets or something, or I hear any of that rhetoric, you know, in media or in books and stuff, I would easily say that most of that is like lies. These are lies. This is not right. That's not Islam that I know for what it is. And again, that's not to say Muslims are perfect or they are like the best. We are normal people, just like other people. We might have some interpretations, you know, crazy ideas, crazy people and stuff. But Islam, you know, if we want to study it, we have to study it for what it is. In the same way, if I want to study Christianity, it would be very wrong to focus on the actions of a priest or any Christian person, because this person, even though he could be as important as the Pope, in my little humble opinion, does not reflect what Christianity is. For me, Christianity is Jesus, peace be upon him, and the Bible, if I want to have a closer look at it. And same thing, Islam will be to look at the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and to look at the Quran again for what it is. Many of those misconceptions from my observation come down to misquoting. They get ayat or verses from the Quran, but they are taken out of context. If you take something out of context, you can play with it. You can twist it in any way that you want to make it function to serve whatever purpose. It comes down to many times, you know, propaganda. They keep repeating the same things again, so much so that people who lived older enough to be not like mature in the 70s and 80s, you would probably not hear much about terrorism in the media as you would hear about nowadays or beginning mid-90s or something. And most of the time when you hear this word, you're gonna connect it in a way or another in the back of your mind to Muslims or Islam. Because if you from the President of the United States, the ex-President, Mr. Bush, all the ministers, all or most of the media outlets, you will hear Islamic terrorism, terrorists, Islamic terrorism is connected to Palestine, to Afghanistan, to Muslims. And is it really so that, you know, everybody who looks certain how, every woman who is dressing certain how, they should be terrorists somehow? Well, if you keep repeating something and keep repeating it and repeating it, even if it's wrong, you will believe it. Or you will have some kind of public opinion around that. That's why many people who didn't know Islam, and they come across it somehow in their life, they have a Muslim neighbor, they have a Muslim doctor, they get in touch in a way or another with an average Muslim person, they will get this kind of relatively shock that, well, they look at least like normal people. I mean, I have been a neighbor of this person for years and I've never heard of any explosions next door or anything. I mean, many of that will have to do with politics, many of that would have to do with demonizing in a way or another, and like Sharia law. many of us would hear this term, Sharia law, Sharia law, Sharia. Would you please give us the definition of Sharia law, what it is, so we can understand what it is? They just give you some term or terminology or something and keep repeating it in a negative context, so you believe it's something negative. And if I ask majority of people, what's Sharia law? You probably say, oh, Muslims taking over our country. In what way? How, like, what? Can you explain it more? Most of that, you will not find an exact definition for it. What is the definition of terrorism, for example? Because if you really defines terrorism, Sharia law, whatever thing that we hear about that's related to Islam, we will probably may change our views about that. Without much, that was just like a quick introduction, but I'm sure you will have very productive and positive ideas and questions that will be that will open up areas for thoughts and things. So we can take those questions.
Thank you very much, Imam.
You're welcome.
They are perfect. I mean, everyone 6 minutes. Exactly. So we have actually an hour almost. Okay. So I gave you some terminology, but forget about that. I mean, you have in your mind many questions. Please, you have two different concepts here. I mean, the Imam who been learning all his life from the beginning, and also Brother Alex Galvin, who embraces Islam, and actually he's been going through this journey, different things. Now, we believe, I'm trying to give you this diversity in speaking, so you can ask questions and bring from your mind any question you like, please. And be specific when you give your question. Maybe if you have a follow-up, have one follow-up. And the speakers, please try to be defined for 3 minutes or 4 minutes as the most for each question, so we have more questions. Thank you.
Some questions we need like hours to answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for each of them. May I ask each?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean,
First of all, when you became a Muslim, did you have to be baptized? Like, I know you don't have baptism, but do you go through some rites?
No, there's no, like the Catholic Church, you have the RCIA process that
Right.
you have to go through in order to be confirmed. But in Islam, you don't. You really don't. It's just to have 2 witnesses, and then you take what's called the Shahada, or the statement of faith, and that's the statement that there is no God but God, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his messenger and prophet, his final prophet. And just by stating that and having at least 2 witnesses, then you are therefore Muslim at that point. And it's really up to you whether or not you're going to abide by that lifestyle and that lifestyle change. Because from living in the West, it will be a pretty good change for you. I wouldn't say it's going to be completely alien in some ways, but there will be some things that you will have to change maybe about your lifestyle that actually probably wouldn't bother most people. They would just go, oh, okay, yeah, that's not a big deal. And that's it. There really is not, there's no lengthy classes you have to take. Of course, there's classes available for your own enrichment, just like there is with any faith. If you want to study Quranic history, or if you want to study, specific message of the Quran, or if you want to study, like tajweed or something, which is
Rules of recitation.
The rules of recitation. If you decide that you want to actually try to pronounce the Quran in the way that it was designed to be read.
can I request my brother, Mr. Alex, to make your voice loud a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Is everyone able to hear me?
Yeah,
Well,
I can.
Okay, good.
I'm old, so I'm mostly.
May I ask my question?
Oh, yeah, please, yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I have a Muslim dentist, and she is absolutely wonderful. I am Canadian. So this brings me to a Canadian question. I live in Kingston, Ontario, where a few years ago there was a horrendous murder. A man from Montreal, as a man, he basically killed his 2 daughters because they were becoming 3 daughters, because they were becoming too westernized. They called this an honor killing. Could you tell me what an honor killing is?
One word, crazy person.
Okay. He's in prison now for life. Him and his son
That's
and his
what-
wife. So,
Well, that's what crazy people should end up in.
okay.
So crazy person that if you find one in how much is the total population of Muslims? 1.7 billion people around the world is doing that. Well, I mean, that will be a good percentage or something. But that's horrible. That's horrific. There is nothing like this in Islam. Actually, in Islam, we are. It's probably, as far as I know, and as far as my study of different religions, it's probably the only religion that tells parents that if you have daughters, that will make your way easier to paradise. Because if you have daughters and you take good care of them, you're actually investing in the next generation. You are giving to the next generation a mother, a good mother, and this good mother will be the most important asset for the family. So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, is criticizing multiple practices of the community back then, of being ashamed to have a daughter or something, and it's telling us the opposite. Actually, you know, if you have the Prophet says, if you have 3 girls, they will take you, that will make your like path easier to paradise. 2, yes, 2, and 1, yes, 1. So it's telling us to be happy for having daughters, just to begin with, and then we have so many things down the road to give a lot of rights for the kids and for the teenagers, and then for obviously for parents too. But there is nothing like that.
So there's no. Where does the term honor killing come from then? Is that
could be cultural thing. Could be cultural thing, because in cultures you see a lot of differences and a lot of crazy things also.
more cultural than religion?
I would guess so.
Okay.
It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with religion. Killing in Islam, even an animal, you have to have a purpose for that. Like you kill to eat, and even the way you kill, it has to be in the nicest and the best way. The Prophet, peace be upon him, saw a man slaughtering a goat in front of another goat, and he saw another person sharpening the knife in front of the goat. He said, "Are you going to kill it twice?" In another hadith or tradition, he said, "You make sure you sharpen your knife. You make sure you make it quick. You make sure that you do not put the animal in agony." That's talking about animals. He told us, on the other hand, a lady imprisoned or locked a cat, not giving this cat food, not giving it water, not leaving it on her own. God took this lady to hellfire because she didn't have mercy. She was not merciful enough to, and she ended up killing this cat. So that's killing an animal, a little animal. How about a human? Allah says in the Quran, whoever kills a person, it's as if he kills the entire humanity. And whoever gives it life, it's as if he gives life to entire humanity. So that's purely, I'm not sure if it's a culture or not, but I'm aware of some cultures that they might do something close to that in certain cases, but it's pure. Could be culture, could be somebody who's crazy, just happen to have any other things in his mind. I don't know.
There's a reason I decided to get all girls in my life. I mean, my children.
If I could
Okay,
add,
go ahead.
actually, I wanted to add to that. We'll take your question in just 1 second. I just wanted to add that when it comes to looking at Islam, the media does a very good job, and I don't want to say a left or a right media. I'm just saying media in general does a very good job at painting things the way that it will create a story and continue something to be published. So if you want to take a look at Islam as an independent outsider and not allow your learning process to be polluted by anything, you need to learn to be able to separate the religion from the culture. Cultural practices have infected Western minds on the view of Islam. And Islam, when you look at it in general, just as the religion itself, kind of almost contradicts the culture. And it was probably, at best, that it was revealed at this time to this culture because, just as he stated, cultural practices towards women were not very good. And it's taking this long for some of that to sink into the minds in that area of the world that, oh, well, Quran says this, but our culture does this. But our culture is right because it's our mores and our customs. And you don't go against mores and customs. It's an extremely difficult thing to try to challenge. So if you want to really take a look at this, and next time you hear a story or you read a story about something in Islam and honor killing or something like that, look at it and go, is this cultural or is this religious? And I can bet you a very good majority, if not almost all, of the negative things you're going to see, it's going to have a cultural connotation to it.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take the question back.
Question, could you outline the religious holidays during the course of the year for the religion? I mean, you know, if you look at the Christians, you know, they've got their Christmas, they got their Easter, and, you know, a whole bunch of religion or holidays in between. What are the major holidays for the Muslims?
You know, it's funny, you should mention holidays. My mother was just telling me this the other day. My mother's a teacher for the state, not in any particular county or district. She teaches several districts. And one of them told her that if you really wanted to take advantage of the government, you should become Jewish, because you get to take advantage of more holidays than anybody else. And I was like, you know, that probably makes sense. But actually, to my knowledge, it's very few holidays that we have.
Only two.
Yeah.
Mainly two. I think we talked about this last time. The two Eids. One at the end of Ramadan, end of fasting. We celebrate the end of fasting. That's going to be a universal. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, any Muslim, they are celebrating this at the end of the month of Ramadan, which is probably, I guess everybody knows about that.
Is that a fixed month in the year?
It's a fixed month in the lunar calendar year, but that varies because the lunar calendar is 10 or 11 days shorter than the Gregorian or the other year that we, the January, February calendar. So
Sort of like our Easter then. It flips around.
it's nowadays, like last year was in August,
Yeah.
and then this year is gonna be like 10 days short. So every 33 years, it goes all around the year. Because every 33 years, that will make a difference 1 year. So it's moving. That's one. And the second one with the pilgrimage, which is the opportunity that Muslims go to Mecca, this holy journey for us. Around 5 to 6 million people, Muslims go to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, from all over the world for this journey. And it involves a series of actions and rituals and stuff. And probably at the conclusion of it, or actually during it, at a certain specific date, again on the lunar calendar, Muslims celebrate the second day or the second feast for them. But then we have so many other minor things, mainly not like, they are connected somehow to religion, but they are not as major as those. They might vary from place to place. Some people believe in them, some others might not. But those two days in the year, every Muslim believes in them and every Muslim celebrates them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is somebody, okay. Did you raise your finger?
Question, but
Okay,
You have
okay,
one
go
other,
ahead.
I think.
Well, this is a question for Alex, and I was curious about what was it about Islam that drew you to choose that as your path?
Well, it's different for everybody, and I honestly don't have any problem speaking about what my journey was. I just maybe for the benefit of everyone here that may be Christian, I don't want to maybe hurt anyone's feelings, but ever since I was a child, I always felt very uncomfortable with the concept that I should pray to Jesus. It never sat well with me. Even though I strive to be a good Christian, I strive to be especially a good Christian child, and my parents sent me to a religious school, and I thought that this was right, and I kept asking my pastor, and because, like I said, my parents floated. I could have been in the church. I could have been in the Catholic parish, and just actually before I started my journey on Islam, I was studying to actually go into the seminary, and I remember speaking with the Monsignor of my parish and telling him that I don't think I could lead a group of people if I have doubts about that myself. said, well, then maybe it's not for you, but you should still continue to investigate. And that was probably the best advice he gave me. He didn't tell me what I was thinking was wrong, but he told me that my faith wasn't strong and that I needed to continue to search and make sure that I was making the right decision, because he said the priesthood was a calling. And you know, it was something that I maybe kind of went beyond what he thought I would go with. But when I started looking at Christianity from an Islamic perspective, almost everything was similar, except that Muslims did not recognize Jesus as the Son of God. Muslims recognized him as a prophet of God, and that he did work many miracles, and that he was born of a virgin birth. These things were not contradicted in Islam, and that salvation was not made through him. And when I read that, I felt like, you know, that because I always had a respect for Jesus and a lot of the things that he did and his teachings and his message to the world, I had utter respect for that. And I felt that because it didn't sit well with me that I should be praying to him or considering him the Son of God, that I should feel really bad about this, you know, and I should have some type of guilt. But when I looked at it from an Islamic perspective, it was explained to me that there should not be any guilt. There shouldn't be any at all whatsoever. You can respect the man, and you can respect what he did and the message he brought to the world, but you can also understand that the feelings that I was having regarding praying to him weren't completely bad feelings to be having. And it really kind of gave me more peace in that regard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay. I see many, many similarities between the Islam faith and Christianity. And I'm not a psychiatrist, but it seems like that religion sometimes tends to attract, I'll use your word, crazies. People that are extreme. They have a position in life that lends themselves to extreme acts. In the case of Christianity, you have the people that kill the abortion doctors. You have the people from Kansas church that come down and disrupt the funerals of veterans. We all read about this. Well, one thing that seems to be different is that the extremists in Islam are much better organized and much better funded. And you almost have to think, is there some sort of structure within Islam that tends to support this broader reach of terrorism, as opposed to the little smaller groups in Christianity?
That's a beautiful question. Yeah, I think that,
Yeah, actually, that was part of my undergraduate work. As being the director of the Center for Foreign Policy Studies, I looked at these avenues under which extremism was funded and supported, and there exists within most extremist groups a sense of you don't question what we're telling you. And nowhere is that probably stronger than in fundamentalist or extremist Islam. I've had the opportunity to meet a few individuals that share a more extreme ideology. I don't agree with them. I think their method of going about trying to meet individuals and teach other individuals about their ideology is a little abrasive, and I don't agree with it at all whatsoever. But yes, in that regard, there are, in all extremist beliefs, a support system of you don't question what we're saying. But if you've already bought into that extreme ideology, you're not going to question it anyway. But if you did have that doubt and you bring it up to them and say, you know, I really don't agree with bombing this abortion clinic or shooting this abortion doctor, the majority of the people that are going to be in that, you know, group are going to shun you and say, well, you have lack of faith. How dare you question God's work? So, I mean, if you see where that kind of comes into the power play a little bit once it gets a hold of an individual that maybe is not exactly weak-minded, or maybe weak-minded, but maybe not weak, or strong-willed, I should say. It's a hard thing to get out of. And it's there, it exists, and like I said, it stems from a mindset of you don't question this. You just follow and you just do what we say. And it's very strong. I know, I've seen it personally. And it's, I don't know, I mean, that's about the only thing I could really add to that.
But the real question was about the breadth of it, the
breadth
extent
of
of it. Yeah, because see, I think for most people, we look at these Christian things that happen as sort of really isolated groups. They're not very predominant. But we read in things like, Al-Qaeda and things like that are widespread across the world. I mean, there are branches everywhere, Indonesia, and so is there, that was my point, that I didn't quite get the answer if you said it. Is there something that fosters that within the religion that spreads it and makes it such a broad?
My personal observation on that, and here we are merely talking politics.
Yeah.
When we talk politics, we will understand, we have to understand that there are so many dimensions for what we're talking about. But to just address your point directly, I believe we do have extremism, some people who have certain extreme ideas, and we can have the right environment for this extremism to flourish. What do I mean by this? One part is on those kind of groups or those kind of people who are recruited by those groups. What is this part? This part is that they see some kind of injustice, that they from their perspective, because we have to understand their mentality. What is it that they are standing for? For us, their actions are crazy, but for them, it's not. So let's just walk in their shoes and see how do they think. So many of those people, be them Palestinians, being Arabs or Muslims somehow, this is what they say. And to be honest, part of it makes sense, in the sense of, as a mere idea to think of. They think of their countries, or their territories, or their lands, or their people being occupied, being oppressed somehow in a way or another, being prejudiced against in a way or another, and they think we are standing in defense of that. So they believe that they are defending the fame of their country, the fame of their religion, the fame of their people in a way or another. So they say there are wars, and most of these wars will be against us. It's coming to us. We're not going to it. It's, Iraq war is coming to us. Afghanistan war is coming to us. Jewish are being taken from all over the world to be put in our lands, Palestinians are saying. And probably they have, if you study this, their views, from their perspective, it will make some kind of sense. That's one thing. The other thing is where is the breath coming from? I would urge you to read a little bit, since we're talking about Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and all of these guys. How did it start? Who funded them? Who supported them from the beginning?
States, yeah.
Did you read about that?
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of shocking to know that this group was somehow, if not originated, it was, some of them were trained, some of them were funded in a way or another. You can argue, but that's to what limit, but the fact is there that they were trained somehow to oppose Russians during the Cold War, and now they started, getting other ways of funds and stuff. I mean, it's so much, it has a lot of dimensions. It's not like just people are there. I mean, politics, that's politics. It takes you to where.
And actually, if you look at it from the breadth of where it comes from, you have a very large recruiting base of individuals like this when you are in areas of high poverty and low education. And what can we say is probably the largest things that are afflicting the Mideast region right now is high poverty and low education. And when you have an abundance of this, you can pretty much tell them that this guy is, green, and they'll believe it because they don't know any other way. And a lot of them are illiterate. When you look at statistics on the region. Prior to the Iraq invasion in 2003, people could say what they would like to say about Saddam Hussein, but he was running that country quite well. There were universities, there were public education, literacy rate was almost 96%, and now look at it, you know, literacy rate I believe is now below 14% in the entire country, and it has almost no infrastructure now. And when you look at something like that, and it comes back to a perceived injustice, like the Imam was speaking about, what would you do if you were put in their shoes? If you were Iraqi, and you saw a country come in and take from you what you saw, and then not having that education, and not having that financial support, and knowing your economies in your country is completely terrible, and all of a sudden someone comes along and says, we have money, we'll feed you and your family, but we want you to come and attend our meetings. You're going to do whatever puts food in your stomach and a roof over your head. And unfortunately, that is what's really pushing that agenda in the Mideast right now, is someone who is literally doing stuff for the people versus someone who is not. And that's why we have that breadth of access, because of low education and high poverty.
Thank you. Actually,
Hey, I
his
was
foreign,
wondering about the education.
I was going to ask you to ask the question, but again, you can see he's a foreign policy director, so you can know. Go ahead, you have a question?
Well, I was about education, and then I'm from the Detroit area, and there's a huge Islamic group in Dearborn down there. And I was wondering, about when you go to the beach, you see a man walking with shorts and a shirt, and then beside him is this lady who's completely covered in black on there. And I wonder, how long does that take, you know, for them to, as my mother said, become an American and not, you know, that's what we're getting into. There's no Islamic people staying there with the Islamic views. How do they change? When do they change? Or should they change?
That's a very good question.
I guess question is for me.
Yeah.
Well, being American is not necessarily to walk naked on the beach. Well, or half naked or whatever, or with a short or something. I mean, I think I can talk best about that because I came from the other part of the world. I came from Egypt. And for me, the best thing about America is you are free to embrace whatever ideas, thoughts, views that you can take. That you are free to do whatever you want as long as it's within the system and the laws of the country. So America is mostly is about freedom. So part of it is freedom to embrace whatever religion and whatever ideas that I would have. That's why you will see all of these talking about religions, Jews and Muslims walking in the streets of New York next to each other. You see Hindus with this Sikh turban, whatever. You will see all languages, you will see all communities, Hispanic and Asians and Chinese and all of these people. Everybody would have their own special, for others might look like strange, way of life. They eat raw fish and they call it sushi. Those guys, they eat whatever different. I mean, in the way we do things, we are different. Coming to the core of this point is why? Why is this happening? This is happening because Muslims believe there are some limits for ladies as far as what to show in public. So it's not because the sun is going to kill them or something. It's not because swimming is bad or illegal. It's not because, it's just in being in public. They believe, this is their faith, that women, some of them, not all Muslims by the way, I mean that's what Islam is, but many people would take it, many people might not. But those who believe in that and those who think they can practice that, they believe that we do not show up in public. But this same lady maybe will be having a swimming class indoors afternoon, going with her Muslim friends, with a female tutor or something, and they will be swimming together. They will be in bikinis and everything. It is just coming down to understanding the other person and accepting the fact that they are different somehow. This is their faith. In the same way, this because wearing the swimming gear or the swimming wear somehow it's not the same thing. Some will be more modest, some will be less modest, some even beaches will be completely naked. It depends on the views of people. So the view of this lady, being her Muslim, being her non, being her Jewish, because it's not only an Islamic, some non-Muslims also believe that, or they don't want to show in public such kind of thing. So I would say let's celebrate the differences and let's accept them and let's try to understand why she's doing that.
Okay. Well, before that, I want just to add a couple of points myself, okay? I've been here 45 years, okay? Since 1971. My wife, I married maybe 1975, which is almost over 30-something now, okay? She embraced Islam before I married with her, okay? But she were modest, her face is open, her hand is open, everything. I think there are two things that's very important, and you mentioned that at the end, is you have to change. I think that is the right person have to live inside the environment he is living in with the mentality and the intelligence of what is required from him as his religion asks him to do, or what is God asking us to do, and what actually how to make the life for yourself and for the others in the society is easy and acceptable. The most important thing is the value. I think what you're adding to the society. You have to believe that you are a part of this society. I'm an architect, I'm a planner. I contributed in many cities in planning and buildings and the will of the society and the goodness of the society. Panama City here, a lot of things here I established. We are doing a project here again. So you are part of the society. I'm talking about the values, what you're adding, the values. As a woman, what's adding the values to the society. It doesn't mean really, if you are in clothes and you're wearing your thing, mean that you are nothing in society, no. So it's very important, and I'm just talking even in front of my brothers, my people here, that is how the value, what you're adding to society. What you can do for the others to understand if you understand yourself something, but the others do not understand it, how you can make this value to the people to make them feel good, okay? Now, coming to the woman situation, is actually Islam, and I think we mentioned that before, that is required that the ladies to be covered, because the lady's body, that's what Islam perceives as what God, that is really attractive to the man, and the man also, the same way, the man have to wear something also decent, not to be going like that. So it is to preserve the modesty and to preserve the goodness for both sides, for the man and the woman. And actually, my wife, she go here to Gulf Coast to go to swimming, because she has arthritis, so she had to go, but she wear her outfit totally covered, and she goes to the swimming pool. The same thing. It's nothing, but of course it's clean, it's washed, everything is fine. So what I'm saying is you preserve your duty, but in the meantime, you living in society and you contributing in society and doing good for society.
I got a question for everyone out here, actually. How many of you guys have been to France or Spain? Have you guys ever been to, same people that raised your hands, have you guys ever been to a nude beach there? No? Have you guys participated in a nude beach? Yeah. I have family on my wife's side because my wife is Moroccan in France. And on my father's side in Spain. And whenever I joke with them about the United States versus Europe, they feel that Europe is a more liberated society than it is here in the United States, and they feel that the United States is very conservative, very closed off. And I was like, well, what makes you say that? Is it the Republican Party or something maybe that says that? And they said, no, it's you guys, your beaches, you can't go and just tan out there in the open without any clothes on. You have to have clothes on. Like, why is that? You guys are a liberal society. You're America. Why can't you do that? And I'm like, because we have decency. Some of us don't want to be out there just, out in the open. But looking at it from their perspective, you can see why culturally it is an issue for some people. I mean, not necessarily like it's not like when we go out to the beach that we're wearing, like you described the photo, or the photo of the young man and the woman, but in their eyes, it's a form of that. You know what I mean?
Are we gonna stay on the beach forever?
We'll just take one who will not ask before. Okay, we have 3 here. Okay, let's go ahead.
Well, mine is just
And
a
I will get
comment.
back
There
to
are
you.
new beaches in America, in California.
I'm saying majority though. It's
Yeah,
not a
the
very
majority, that's right.
friendly place.
But I do have
California
another,
is like
yeah,
it's
California is
like
another
its own
country, yeah,
country.
it's another
It's like it's
country,
really
that's
the
right.
United States
It
of
is,
California.
it is.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
What is the significance of beards to the Muslim religion for men? There you sit, all 3 of you, you each have a beard.
Honestly, I'm just too lazy to shave. That's what it is. You don't have to. I've never been told that because I'm Muslim and I'm a male that I have to have a beard. But for me, I'm really just too lazy to shave most days. That's just my excuse for
And in
it.
America, you have the Duck Dynasty.
Yeah.
That's a fair answer.
Yeah.
But there is something into it actually, like the way I do it, and this is something a good example in here. You would not find all Muslims having like 100% all details of the religion that they just go by. I go by this as something like I believe it. It takes me closer. It makes me closer to my religion, to trying to look like the Prophet of Islam. Because all prophets, not only Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, actually Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, and all prophets, they used to have a beard. That's not to say or to condemn those who do not have a beard. It's just in the same way you love the gators, so if you would like those kind of clothes or whatever things in your car that you put in there, it's something close to that. So it's part of trying to look like the Prophet. And actually it happened one time because usually in the congregation I wear this kind of one-piece clothes. We call it jalabiya or jilbab. And mostly, or many times it's white. It happened one time in the airport that we were going as imams to a conference in Minnesota, and groups of people, like imams from Florida, we meet together somehow and we go. So one of our brothers, most of the time I just travel like this, but some imams prefer to travel in the religious kind of uniform, and he was in this kind of dress, and he happened to be white and blonde hair, beard and stuff. So one of the young boys with his mom, he says, "Mom, look, Jesus." So he is in white and with the beard and the kufi and everything. So I mean that's we try to even look like prophets, even if it's most importantly to behave like them and to live like them. But it's very it's understandable when you love a team or a basketball team or something, you would tend to even dress like them.
by the way, I'm going to take your question. By the way, next week we have Dr. Amal Tabah. She is a woman in Islam. The topic, she's speaker. She comes to address everyone. You're going to have a plenty question to her about this age, okay? So it's very important next week. Yes, go ahead, Samara.
Help me with the split between the Sunnis and the Shia. How did it happen? What do you think the impact is right now? I think one of the countries, Iran, is predominantly one, and Iraq is the other. And probably the impossible question for you is, how do you see this going down in the future?
Okay, just like other faiths and other groups, you will have different understandings and different interpretations and stuff. We don't have in Islam that many denominations and that many differences, even though they do exist. So the two main groups, I would assume myself that those conform 99%, just my estimate, of all Muslims, the Sunnis and Shias. And Sunnis will be like 91, 92% of the Muslim population of the world. Shias will be probably close to 7% or something, 8%, mostly in Iran and Iraq. How did this start? Actually, one of the amazing things, we were talking about Quran last time, it's not another version of the religion or something. The Quran is the same. Quran is the same. The Quran that they read in Iran is the same Quran that they read in any other Muslim country or anywhere in the world. Quran is the same wherever you go. So the sources will be mostly the same when it comes to the Quran. Yet we do have some key differences in our practices. And how did it start? It started mainly as a political difference. A few years after the Prophet passed away, there were some kind of his followers. They choose the closest to him or those who were key figures in the Muslim community back then to be leaders. And then a disagreement happened about one of those leaders, where Shias believed that one of his family members by the name of Ali, he is the one that deserved to be the caliph or the president or the leader at this time. Others believe otherwise, or majority of others believe otherwise, and this is how it mainly started. This is how it mainly started. So it's mainly started as a political difference, but I would say prayer would be pretty much almost the same. Quran that we read is pretty much the same, yet we do have some differences as far as faith and belief.
Thank you. I think you have a question. You asked a question. Will you ask? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I was just
Go ahead.
I want to talk about your hierarchy in Islam. Do you have one? Like, do you have somebody who would be the commander-in-chief? And then, I know you're an imam. What does that mean? And the second part of my question is, if you do have a hierarchy or not, are there women present in your hierarchy? Like, can a woman become an imam or whatever?
Okay, when you, I like what Alex said earlier, that when you try to understand Islam, he said that try to focus in it and do not